Schools are complex organisations that bring together a wide range of people: head, governors, teachers, parents, teaching assistants, and others, all working to provide high-quality education for every pupil. But how do we know, in such a complex organisation, how well a school is serving its learners? Ofsted notes that the most effective schools are educationally inclusive and pay particular attention to the provision made for different groups of pupils. These schools identify pupils who may be missing out and take practical steps to meet their needs. The Ofsted guidance on evaluating inclusion asks these fundamental questions. How well does the school recognise and overcome barriers to learning? Do the school's values embrace inclusion, and does its practice promote it? The key to any school answering these questions for itself lies in self-evaluation and the judgments that entails. This DVD outlines how a voluntary inclusion chartermark review can help you validate the quality of your self-evaluation, judgments, and inclusive practice. Guidance and legislation for schools is extensive, so it is important at the outset to stress that an inclusion chartermark review avoids duplication of work by being cross-referenced to key documents, such as your CEF and the ECM outcomes, and by validating what you, as a school, already do. When Education Bradford offers a school a review, it provides an opportunity for the school to look at their self-evaluation and planning cycle, and judge this against rigorous criteria based on the 12 regional quality standards. If the review verifies a school meets the quality standards, they gain an award that is widely recognised and which allows all the staff, governors, parents and pupils of a school to celebrate what they do well. Several schools in Bradford have already gained inclusion chartermark status, and the feedback from the head teachers, staff and governors involved has been very positive.
So you've been involved in the Chartermark review. What do you think about the process?
It was very refreshing to be able to look in depth at a whole range of issues within school.
Katherine, you were really involved in the whole pilot. Can you tell me what you felt about the two approaches that we tried out in terms of which way we would go with the review?
Yeah, well, the first time that we looked at reviewing schools, we carried out the review entirely in school. That was very rigorous and very challenging for us. We were looking at ways that we could evidence our inclusive practice through lots of different things like interviews, paper evidence, things that you would come into school and just see from observation. But we realised that doing that for each of the 12 standards was going to take an awful long time. So we went back and had a look at a different way of reviewing, and we were one of the schools that offered to have the second type of review, where EB did a lot of background work and met with people that were worked with the school from an outside perspective, like school improvement officers, people from support services, so that they could validate some of that evidence for us, rather than the school having to find it all for themselves.
When Education Bradford offers to carry out a review with the school, the reviewer starts the process with a desktop analysis in order to gather supporting evidence. This background work is important, not only to make the process rigorous, but also to make it less demanding for the school.
Ewen, in relation to looked after children, is there a particular example in relation to this school as to what they've done particularly well?
They're very good at integrating looked after children when they move into the new school, particularly taking into account using learning mentors and support assistants.
Well, Donna, we're looking at Quality Standard 10 now, transitions. As EP for the school, what evidence have you got as to how well the school deals with transitions?
Well, this is an outstanding school which effectively manages pupil transition from primary school to secondary school, in that key members of staff at the primary school are trained to consistently manage pupil transition. We also have good evidence of how effectively they are managing transition work at the school.
Neil, we're looking at Quality Standard 11 now, behaviour and attendance. What evidence have you got that this is a school that's dealt well with attendance issues? I think particularly this school in particular is looking at their data, their attendance data. They're analysing the data that come from all pupils regarding their school attendance. And they've done some very good detailed analysis here of breaking down.
The reviewer asks a range of Education Bradford colleagues who know the school for any evidence-based judgments they can make that would support the school in its bid to gain Inclusion Chartermark status.
The staff at school were really very pleased about how things had gone, and we had quite a positive feel in the school. Was that the same for you?
Oh yes, I remember when I opened the letter, I was really delighted when I read it, and I knew the staff would be too, because it actually referred in the letter to key people who'd been interviewed. There were anecdotes in it about the things that had been seen on the day that the assessors made, and it felt like it was a real letter about our school and not a bog standard congratulations letter that would go out to everybody. I knew the staff would be delighted, so I took it down to the staff room and read it to them, and it was a real morale booster for them, and we felt that the work that we do had been recognised by people who knew about education in Education Bradford.